Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm David Kerr from Lansing, Michigan, and these are your latest news headlines from around the world. Pope Francis received King Abdullah II of Jordan at the Vatican on Thursday. According to a Vatican statement, the Pope and the King discussed the need to advance interreligious and ecumenical dialogue, while always ensuring that the Catholic Church in Jordan may freely execute her mission. Pope Francis also thanked the King for caring for the Holy Land. The private conversation between the Pope and King Abdullah, who was accompanied by his wife Rania, lasted for about 25 minutes. Following the meeting with Pope Francis, the King also met with the Vatican's Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, accompanied by Archbishop Paul Gallagher, who is the Vatican's Secretary for Relations with States and International Organisations. Meanwhile, the leader of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church met with Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI at the Vatican on Tuesday. The Pope Emeritus told Major Archbishop Sviatoslav Shevchuk that he is continuing to pray for the war-torn nation. The two men met at Pope Benedict's residence at the Mater Ecclesiae Monastery, which sits within the grounds of the Vatican. Archbishop Shevchuk reiterated that the war in Ukraine is ideological and colonial and compared it to the Nazi regime. In return, Pope Benedict stressed that he was following the situation in Ukraine closely and expressed his great sorrow for the suffering of the Ukrainian people and said that he was always praying for peace to come. Bishops across the United States have reacted with sadness to a string of abortion-related defeats in various states during the US midterm elections of this week. Voters in California, Michigan and Vermont decided to enshrine abortion into their state constitution. Meanwhile, voters in Kentucky and Montana decided to expand access to abortion in their states. Bishop Christopher Coyne of Burlington in Vermont said the decision there paved the way to an unhappy future. Meanwhile, in a joint statement, the four Catholic bishops of Kentucky said that the vote there wouldn't force the state legislature to pass abortion laws through the courts. Meanwhile, Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco issued a letter expressing his gratitude to all those who spoke out against abortion in California, stating that women experiencing a crisis pregnancy need assistance and compassion rather than abortion. The government of Hungary has restated its commitment to supporting persecuted Christians around the globe. On Monday, Hungary's State Secretary for Aid to Persecuted Christians, Tristan Azbej, visited Lebanon to meet with Patriarch Ignatius Ephraim II of the Syrian Orthodox Church and Patriarch Ignace Younan of the Syriac Catholic Church. During their meetings, the men discussed projects currently undertaken by the churches with the assistance of the Hungarian government. The patriarchs also praised the efforts taken by the Hungarian government in raising awareness of Christian persecution and taking measures to tackle it. 5 UN-appointed independent human rights experts have called for the government of Turkey to stop using counter-terrorism legislation to intimidate those promoting human rights. The plea follows last month's arrest of Dr. Sebnan Kurar Fincanci, a senior medic and anti-torture expert who helped develop the UN standards on investigating and documenting torture, known as the Istanbul Protocol. The grounds for her arrest are still unclear. Many believe it is in retaliation for publicly calling for investigations into the alleged use of chemical weapons and associated deaths involving the Turkish military. Now, a panel of 5 UN's appointed special rapporteurs have issued a report stating that such arrests aim to shrink the safe space of civil society, undermine the rule of law, and encroach upon fundamental freedoms and democratic values. Syria is still facing a serious health and economic crisis due to its ongoing civil war. That's the warning of Melkite Archbishop George Masri of Aleppo in Syria upon his recent visit to the headquarters of the papal charity Aid to the Church in Need in Germany. Archbishop Masri informed the organisation of an outbreak of cholera in Syria that has now been reported in 13 of the country's 14 provinces. The outbreak, he explained, is a direct consequence of the conflict, which has damaged water and sanitation infrastructure. The war in Syria is now into its 11th year. It's estimated that the conflict has killed over 500,000 people and displaced half of Syria's pre-war population. The US Department of Justice has imposed criminal charges upon a group of Haitian gang leaders accused of kidnapping 17 US citizens in October of last year. The victims were Christian missionaries serving near the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince. Most were held captive for 61 days before escaping. The group included 5 children, one as young as 8 months old at the time of the kidnapping. Now, Joseph Wilson and Jermaine Stevenson of the so-called 400 Mawozo gang have been charged with hostage-taking and conspiracy to commit abduction. 4 other Haitian gang members were also charged for separate kidnapping offences against US citizens. 5 nuns, including a 100-year-old religious sister, have been injured in a car crash in the Australian city of Sydney. Emergency services were called to a property in Mulgoa in western Sydney on Wednesday night after reports that a car had rolled down an embankment and hit a tree. All the occupants of the car were taken to hospital. The 100-year-old nun is described as being in a serious condition. Pope Francis says that priestly formation is at the heart of evangelisation. The Holy Father made his comments on Thursday at a meeting with the rectors and other staff from Latin American seminaries. The group are taking part in a course in Rome organised by the Vatican's dicastery for the clergy. Pope Francis told them of the importance of high-quality formation for all future priests. A man suspected of throwing a wrench at the New York residence of the city's Archbishop Cardinal Timothy Dolan has been arrested. 28-year-old Juan Velez was taken into police custody on Wednesday. He's charged with criminal mischief as a hate crime and criminal mischief for the October 28th incident, as well as 2 other hate crimes targeting religious sites. Mr. Velez's last known address was a homeless shelter in Manhattan. A judge in Pennsylvania has sentenced a Syrian refugee to more than 17 years in prison after he pleaded guilty to plotting to bomb a Christian congregation in Pittsburgh. 24-year-old Mustafa Musab Al-Awemer admitted to trying to provide material support to ISIS after plotting to blow up the city's Legacy International Worship Centre. Al-Awemer said he wanted to take revenge for his brothers in Nigeria. Meanwhile, more lay Catholics in Nigeria should become active in politics. That's the advice of Archbishop Augustine Obiore Akubezi of the Benin city. He was speaking at the opening of the National Pastoral Congress in Nigeria. The Archbishop also urged Nigerians to listen critically to the promises of political candidates which are being made in the run-up to the country's general election, which is set for the 25th of February 2023. Well, that's your latest news headlines for now. Do join us for more tomorrow. You can also join us at swnews.org for news updates. Shalom.